Oh, those evil hammer feet that come with your vintage and your antique sewing machines. They have been one of my greatest frustrations. Some of you, if you've watched previous videos of mine, I like to mess with my attachments. And these are always something I try and usually have a hard time, especially this narrow hammer. I have never found one to really work all that well, except for in my Wilcox and Gibbs. Here's a better look at these different hammers by Greist that are called spoon hammers. And it gives you a good idea of the 4 different sizes that I got in this attachment group. And they're pretty easy to use, and the larger sizes are easier than the smaller. But they do a pretty nice hem, so I think they're worthwhile having and learning how to use. And we'll start out with this little 1/4-inch one here. The real trick to getting these hammers to work that I have found, and I've spent a lot of time watching a lot of YouTube videos, and there's a lot of different ideas on how to deal with these things. Some of them are pretty good, and others aren't so good in that they say it's easy to do. They show you how to get it started in one way or another, and then when they go sewing down it, as you watch it feed out the back end, there's raw edges and uneven folds, and they say they'll automatically fold it for you. Well, they really don't do that very well, and so I kind of messed around for a long time and just finally came across some good ideas on what to really make this work. And the big trick is to start out right and do a double fold the size of your foot hem. This is a little 1/4-inch. And you want to hold it, you want to keep that little fold in the back somehow. And here I'm going to pin it. You don't always have to pin it, it just depends. This is so small, I'm going to try pinning it. And I like to have the back end of my pin out the back. Others do it with going in the front way. And this way I want to take a tiny, tiny little bite. Here I'm going to pull it back. Tiny little bite. And keep that pin out of the way of the attachment as much as possible, so I can get the starting stitch at the very back end as close as I can. So I'll be putting it under here, and you'll just do a straight stitch on top of it where it's not in the main attachment. It's just kind of doing a straight stitch. So I'm going to go on down to where it's not folded and slide it under that first finger that's down in between the bottom and the curl. And then you're going to want to figure out how to get it to fold over that little loopy loop right there. Get it started to fold over. And don't count on that doing it for you automatically. You're going to still want, and I have found that you're still going to want to double fold that thing the whole way down as you go. And then it'll work pretty well. It does a nice even edge stitch, and it folds it into just the right size as long as you encourage it from the very beginning to do it right. Now here I'm pulling it back. You can see it kind of folding over because of that previous fold. You got to kind of be gentle with this and take your time and get it set up right. It's really, really critical to get it set up right initially for it to do a real pretty hem all the way down and not mess up. Now here I'm going to lower my foot just to help hold it while I get some more folds set in by finger pressing a little further down. That's a single fold there. And then I'm going to need to double fold it over again, and this will be the size of that 1/4 inch. And here I'm folding it over the second time. So initially there is a lot of fussing around with this. Now I'm going to lift the foot and pull it back without pulling out the pin. I'm going to hold that area. You also want to make sure you get your thread tails from your bobbin and your upper thread pulled back with this, and so they're not underneath there and messing things up. Then I kind of slide it back and forth gently until it really pops all the way around. And here you'll see, if you watch real closely, as I pull it, I pop. There it goes. Now it just slid. There it goes again, all the way down. Then you kind of form this tube, this folded tube, and make sure it's nice and even, and check it back and forth gently. Now this looks really good. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of ease it back towards the end and get my threads out again, my thread tails out, so they're not going to be all bunched up. And once you really get this set, then you can move along. Now I've almost got it to the edge of the fabric. I'm going to drop my foot. And we're going to do a couple of stitches real slow and gently because I've got that pin in there, and get it started. And here I've got my little flip didn't kind of tried to come out, so I'm pushing it back in. It's critical to get that double folded over for it to really do right. Okay, now we'll get a couple of stitches in. We'll be careful with that pin, and then get the pin out of there. Now we don't need it anymore. Under that foot, so it's kind of tight. There it is. Now I got it out, and we're going to be ready to go here. Now I'm using, this is a treadle machine. This is a National 2-spool treadle, probably 1920s or so made, so it's around 100 years old at this point. These attachments would be the same age because they came with this machine. Now here we go down the edge, and these are going pretty well. And I've got it double folded in front, and I'm guiding it on the left side to keep it from pushing too far to the right. And now I've got to work on my folds here a little bit. I've got the needle down so everything stays put. I'm working on my folds further down the piece. And it's just, you just need to be kind of patient and make sure everything's folded well, and then it'll go through all right. And I noticed on the larger hammers, the smaller ones are particularly fussy. The larger ones are a little easier to deal with, and you can go quite a bit faster with them too. They'll crank out a hem pretty fast, a real nice one, and I'll show you a demo of one of the larger hammers. And I'm going to work some more on that double fold. Just taking my time with the needle down at this point. Make sure it's folded over double. Sometimes these things just take some patience and take a while. But you could see behind the needle there, it's coming out pretty good. Now when I get close to the end, I like to take my tweezers and hold the first upper fold. Just kind of ease it on in there so it doesn't get turned the wrong way and flipped over. There you go. Now this one, after a little practice on these things, you get pretty good at them. And this one's pretty darn close to perfect. No raw edges anywhere. Double fold all the way down. A nice even stitch. A nice straight edge. Came out pretty nice. This is a good example. Now here we're going to go into high-speed gear just to crank through these pretty fast. This is the 5/8 pinch at a different angle. You can kind of see me setting it up and getting that tube nice and smooth and even, and pulling my thread tails back. And we're going to go ahead and move through this pretty fast at a different angle so you can see a little more we're doing. As you go up in size, they're a little easier to use, and they can run through pretty fast. And this is a good example of a 5/8 inch foot. Again, you grab that upper loop, and feed on in, and you come out pretty darn good. Now here I've put on the 3/4 inch foot and get my thread down underneath the foot. And this is also high speed here, so we're going to fold it over 1/4 inch, and then we're going to fold it the second time for the 3/4 inch side. The second fold is always for the size of the foot you're using. Here you'll see me kind of ease it over, pretty large fold there. But the larger ones, as I said, are a little easier to use. So sliding it back and forth to get that nice smooth tube. I'm just use my forceps to hold the back end of this in place as I get things set up. Back and forth, a nice smooth, even tube, right size for the foot. Drop down, and you can start sewing. Get your thread tails out of the way. And this one will go pretty fast. I found the large ones were nice to use. This is high speed. And for the most part, even though they're kind of difficult to learn, once you get it down and you figure out how to do it right, they're pretty worthwhile. They make a real nice hem. You do a lot of hemming, they'd be worth learning. So I hope this was helpful for you, and good luck with learning how to use these. They can be pretty darn frustrating, and I feel pretty good that I finally figured out how to get them to work. Have fun.